Hey, it's me, Adam Levy. In this lesson, I want to talk about diminished seventh chords and some of their unusual properties and how you might actually use them in your own songwriting or composing. We're going to look at what they're made of and how they tend to move. We'll do that first, and then I'll show you some real-world examples. So the first thing that's important to understand about a diminished seventh chord would be that it is a symmetrical four-part chord, which is different from any other symmetrical four-part chord. So when I say a four-part chord, most of the time that's going to mean a chord that contains a root, some kind of third, could be major or minor, some kind of fifth, some kind of seventh, again that could be major or minor, and the fifth could be altered as well. So there's a lot of variables in there, but everything is still going to be some kind of root, some kind of third, some kind of fifth, and some kind of seventh. For example, this is G major 7. That's got the root is G, the third is B, fifth is D, seventh is F sharp. So that's a typical kind of four-part seventh chord. Now, it's built in thirds. If you just stack it from the bottom to the top, from the root to the third is a major third interval. From the third to the fifth is a minor third interval. And then there's a major third from the fifth to the seventh. And so if you invert that chord, it seems like it's kind of symmetrical. I was talking about how diminished chords are symmetrical. And it would seem that this sort of chord is symmetrical and that it's thirds and you could just stack them and repeat them and whatever. But as soon as you start to get into inversions, you realize how asymmetrical this chord is. It seems like it could be a square, sort of if you imagine four equal sides and the sides are of equal length and the corners are equidistant apart. It seems like it could be that way, but it's really not that way at all, which you see as soon as you get into inversions. An inversion, simply put, is we're going to take the lowest note and move it up an octave. And the other three notes are going to stay in the same place. So if G goes up an octave and we still have B, D, and F sharp, well, we'll have to move the B, D, and F sharp to this lower string set so that we can get this G up top. And you can see just physically, and you can hear, I hope, that this is now a really different kind of animal than this is. Because now you've got this really close interval on the top that's not a third anymore. You've still got a third here and a third here, but now you've got this second. And if we keep inverting it and follow the same kind of thing, now we've got a third here, but then this is a second, and then a third on top, and finally we get to this. So now this is a second, that's a third, and that's a third. So when we get out of root position, we are always going to find a second in there somewhere, and that's resulting because when you've got the root and the seventh in this position, they're nearly an octave apart, but as soon as you start inverting it, they become close neighbors, and you get that kind of tension thing going on. Whereas a diminished chord, which has root, and then the minor third, and then the flat 5, and then the 6 or double flat 7, is built in minor thirds all the way up. So G to B flat is a minor third, B flat to D flat is a minor third, and then you could say D flat up to F flat, or if you'd rather C sharp up to E, that's also a minor third. So it's all minor thirds. And subsequently, or consequently, if you go to make inversions, you wind up with the exact same shape. It may not look like it because this has an open string, but this is the exact same shape. And if we invert that, again, what is an inversion? It's moving the bottom note to the top. So if I have G, B flat, we'll say C sharp and E. So we need to keep B flat, C sharp, E. We move them over one string set, and then we have this G now moving up an octave. So that's that sound. If we move the B flat up an octave and C sharp, E, G stay where they are, then we're going to get this. And put the B flat on top, and so on. So it's this same grip all the way, there we go, all the way across. So it's symmetrical. So that's a really unusual property. And because of that property, any diminished grip that you play, let's go back to this one, you could call any one of those notes as the root and you wouldn't be wrong. You could say this is B flat diminished seventh. You could say this is C sharp diminished seventh. You could say this is E diminished seventh. And you could say this is G diminished seventh. And in any one of those cases, you'd be correct, whereas that wouldn't be true for the G major 7 example I showed you earlier. You can't just call G major 7 B major 7 or D major 7 or F sharp major 7. It's none of those things. It's only G major 7. But in diminished, all of those, one grip gets you 4 chords. So if you're looking at a chart and it says G diminished 7th, the G really could be anywhere. Now, I haven't played this voicing yet, but I'll show you this. This is a little bit more of a comfortable diminished 7th voicing rather than going for this, which is quite a knuckle buster. I'm condensing the notes. So we need G, C sharp, B flat, C sharp, E, G. All of that stuff can be grabbed here. G, C sharp, B flat, E. You could name any of these as the root. If you see a chart that says B flat diminished, you could use this. If you see a chart and it says G diminished, you could use this, and so on. And this shape just repeats every 3 frets. So there's a lot of possibility for different voicings and different names, and that could be really confusing. Hopefully in the second part of this video, when I get into real world applications of all this stuff, it will make more sense. Right now we're just talking about the theory, which can be confusing because there's no real anchor. There's no gravity like we have in tonal music, where you have a it's pretty easy to hear the tonal center there, but when we get into diminished chords, everything is a little bit open to interpretation, and that's good. When we learn to harness that, we can really make a lot of interesting moves in music. So if any of the stuff that I've said so far doesn't make sense, go back and watch that much again, because until that makes sense, I don't think the next stuff is going to make sense. So watch it again, maybe sleep on it, come back to it tomorrow and see if it makes some sense. So that's just the structure of diminished chords and the symmetrical nature of them. Okay?